Okay, show that it's recording. So Educational Opportunity Fund, EOF. I just mentioned this, but to reiterate today's session, we're going to discuss the following 3 points. So what is the EOF program and what are our services? We're going to share what our program compliance requirements are. And then lastly, we will end with giving an overview of the EOF verification process. So what is EOF? What is the Educational Opportunity Fund? Really, I always like to share that we are, and this program is a support system for students. And I like to think of support often as a family, a community of support. And some of the key players in that community of support are the EOF team. So we have Dr. Marsha Bisson, who right now is our interim vice chancellor, and she is the director who oversees the overarching goals of this state grant program. We also have Ms. Randy Ferguson, who is the EOF assistant director, and really the manager who oversees the day-to-day activities within EOF. My name is Brandon Quiles. You have most likely gotten an email from me about this process. I'm the program coordinator for our division, and specifically for EOF, I help students as they first apply to the program until they are actually fully accepted and assigned to an advisor. So I will be your point of contact now until you complete EOF financial verification. I will be one of your key contacts. So you see me now, you see my face, you're gonna see my emails, get to know me really well because I will find you and I will reach out to you. Then we have our wonderful counselors, who I like to say are our lifelines. These are the individuals who, once you become an EOF scholar, you will meet with regularly, and they are really the backbone and support to help champion whatever your goals are academically, professionally, holistically, in terms of your time here at Rutgers-Camden. They help our students achieve and accomplish their goals. So what are the programs and services, right? You may think, hey, I got this email to apply, but maybe I'm not fully aware of what I'm getting out of this program. This is what you would get out of this program as one of our scholars. One is our academic coaching, right? I mentioned that there are those 3 wonderful advisors, and they're here to provide student support. So you will meet with them regularly. They will help you in terms of thinking through what your academic and career goals are. If you know what those academic career goals are, they will help you navigate systems and different opportunities here on campus so that you can accomplish them and really see yourself as a full Scarlet Raptor, right? We also offer student-centered workshops. So these workshops are really focused around professional development, academic success, enrichment, and other educational topics. We create and offer different experiential learning and leadership opportunities through this program. Again, I want to highlight that family environment. As an EOF scholar, you will be one of roughly around 400 EOF scholars at any given time. So you are part of a village, right? Part of a group of students here on campus. And just as much as we as the staff can be a support, you have a community of support with your peers that you can help champion and encourage and hold accountable so that you can reach that academic success and timely graduation. And then lastly, our program and our services are making sure that we're referring you to other campus resources based on the needs of each of you individually. So if you need support when it comes to your mental well-being or physical well-being, we can make sure that we refer you to the appropriate resources on campus. If you need support landing that internship, right? Landing that grad school application to get to that graduate school, we can make sure that we're supporting you and referring you out to career services or those other campus resources that can support you. So EOF program is a state-funded program. And with that, we do have some compliance pieces to that and some expectations that we have of you all. So with our EOF students, these are the things that we require, right? We have already shared what we will pour into you, but we want to make sure that you are meeting us halfway. So with that, we require you to attend workshops. So these are workshops, again, career development, enrichment workshops. There's a plethora in person or virtual. We are pretty open on what workshops students can attend, but we expect you all to be engaging in what's happening within our division and within the university because it's for your betterment. There's an expectation and requirement for you to meet with your counselor at least 2 times a month. So we want to make sure that you're connecting with your EOF counselor and really keeping on top of, are you accomplishing your goals? Are there barriers, right? And meeting with them so that you all can come up with solutions together. And then lastly, we want to make sure you're meeting with your academic advisor once per semester. So you want to graduate, you have a time frame of when you want to graduate. Your academic advisor is going to be the person to make sure that you're meeting those academic requirements. So continued funding, one of the ways that we pour into our students is that we make sure that they are receiving a small little economic grant. It's not a huge grant, but it is funding. Students are only eligible to continue getting that funding if they're in compliance with these other requirements. They need to be engaging in the workshops, meeting with their counselor, meeting with their academic advisor. I will also say completing their FAFSA every year. I'm going to add that in there. So I talked to you a little bit about what EOF is, how we pour into our students, and what the expectations are of our students in our program. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the EOF verification process.
Hi, so my name is Lakeisha Villan Cortez. I'm one of the assistant directors in the Office of Financial Aid, but I work closely with the EOF population, and I work with Brandon and Miss Ferguson to kind of help you guys along the verification process. So we're going to talk about how what EOF looks like and what that verification looks like on the financial aid side. So the New Jersey Educational Opportunity Fund provides financial assistance and support services. Brandon talked about counseling, tutoring, development, coursework to students from educationally and economically disadvantaged backgrounds who attend participating institutions of higher education in the state of New Jersey. So undergraduate grants can range between $200 annually to about $2,650 annually, depending on the institution. And the financial need of the students. So these grants are renewable as long as students continue to maintain financial eligibility. Here at Rutgers-Camden, our award, the max award is about $1,600 annually. Keep in mind that this changes a little bit from year to year based on what the state allows. So who is eligible? So students who have been New Jersey residents for 12 consecutive months prior to the award period, and then students who demonstrate historical poverty as defined by the EOF guidelines, as well as adhere to family size and income cutoffs. And students must be enrolled full-time. Brandon, I don't think I can switch to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the guideline, the income guideline for the 2021-2022 academic year. So this will kind of give you an idea of where you need to be income-wise based off of the household size, and then it's looking at gross income. And then the state is also now looking at assets. So basically that's funds that you have in business income, investments, checking and saving account income can't exceed the amount on the right. Okay, so there is some documentation that's required for the EOF verification process. So students wanting to participate in the program must go through a process called verification. And the verification process will allow the financial aid office to determine if you meet the income requirements that are set by HESA, which is a Higher Education Student Assistance Authority. So some documentation that may be requested would be asset verification. So this requires students to submit any asset verification for 2018 and 2019. So it depends whether if you're coming in as a transfer student who's never had any EOF history or received an EOF payment, you'll be required to submit 2 years of income verification. Now, if you're coming in as a transfer student, let's say that has received EOF payments before, you would only be requested to submit income for the 2019 income year. So if you're coming in as a first-year student and you've never received EOF payments or any type of financial aid, then most likely you'll be required to submit 2 years of income. And I only give those scenarios because I'm not sure who's on, if we have transfer, first year, or combination, but that'll kind of give you an idea where you stand. We also do household verification form. This is where you would verify to us who's in the household. So you, yourself, parents, you, yourself, a child, you and a spouse and children, that kind of information. You also have to provide proof of Social Security benefits, SSI, SNAP, and TANF, if that applies to you. If you receive any of type of those benefits, you'll have to submit that documentation. All students are required to submit tax return transcripts for the 2019 tax year. And again, some students may be required to submit it for both 2018 and 2019. Now that with the tax return transcripts, it's important to keep in mind that this has to come directly from the IRS. So you will request these documents from the IRS, and we're going to kind of talk about that on the next slide. So the tax return transcript, it's not a photocopy of the 1040. There used to be the 1040A and the 1040E, but the tax return transcript can only be obtained directly from the IRS. So these are the different ways that you can request that document directly from the IRS. So you can contact them, you can order the transcript by phone, you can go online and visit them at irs.gov and request it online. Just keep in mind that if you are requesting it online, you do have to have access to some type of debit card or something like that. If you don't, you won't be able to access the transcript online. And then you can also request it through mail or fax by completing the actual paper form, which is a 4506T form, and then you can mail or fax that to the IRS directly. So in order to manage your documents online, the Office of Financial Aid will communicate via email notification only. So you won't get anything in the mail. So we'll send you an email notification letting you know if additional documentation is needed. So it's important that you check your student email regularly. There is a way that you can link your student email and your personal email together. That usually is helpful to students. But your documentation can be managed online through scarletthub.rutgers.edu. And when you go there, you'll kind of get the picture that's there. It'll kind of look exactly like that. Once you click on check missing documents, it'll bring you to another page where you can actually enter your net ID and password, and then it'll log you in to see your missing information. So we're going to talk about HESA a little bit and kind of what that looks like on their end. So if you received financial aid before, you may be familiar with HESA and you're familiar with their system, NJFAM system. So New Jersey Higher Education Student Assistance Authority is an agency that the student will need to supply additional information to if they're looking to be considered eligible for the state grant or scholarship programs such as TAG, New Jersey STARS 2, or EOF, right? So all students should be able to go on New Jersey FAMS and create an account. This is separate than your FAFSA. So if HESA is requesting documentation from you directly, then you want to submit any documentation that they're requesting directly to them. And on their website, on your to-do list, it'll guide you on how to submit that documentation. So it's students' responsibility to respond to all state communication, all state emails, all of that. And keep in mind that it's different than your FAFSA and it's different than what the Office of Financial Aid will request from you. Many times you may not have to submit anything to HESA, but it's important that you create an account with NJFAMS, that you log in, that you make sure that your to-do list is all green, that there's no red, because it will hold up your EOF funding and your TAG funding as well. So some important dates to keep in mind. So Monday, September 27th, it's going to be the last day to indicate if you would like to be withdrawn from the EOF consideration, and you would communicate this information to Brandon. Yes, it's important to let him know. The reasoning for that is once we open you for EOF verification, even if you decide, let's say you decide in October that you no longer want to be considered, you're still going to be required to submit the verification documents. So once those documents are open, even if you back out of the program, you have to submit them, and it'll prevent aid from funding. It will prevent a lot of things from going through in your account, and we don't want to hold your account up. We don't want to avoid any aid from dispersing or you from registering or anything like that. So it's important that you let him know by Monday, September 27th. Friday, November 19th will be the last day to turn in verification documents to the Office of Financial Aid to be considered for the program. So once you get your missing information letter, start working on submitting what we're requesting. And you want to just make sure that everything's submitted prior to November 19th. That doesn't mean wait to the last minute, right? Because we know with some of these forms, it's easy for you to fill out, but if you have to get IRS tax return transcripts, there is sometimes, if you're lucky, 7 to 10 day turnaround window, but sometimes it can be a little bit longer. We've seen sometimes this process take a month or 2 months, depending on the circumstance, and now with the pandemic and things like that. So just start the process as soon as you get your missing information letter.
Thank you, Lakeisha.
You're welcome.
So during this process, here's some information. Here's our contact information. I'm also going to put my cell phone number in the chat because sometimes I know that's easier for students to shoot me a text. You have us to reach out to. Again, I'm going to be the one communicating with you all, as well as financial aid. Once we open you up for verification, the documents that you need, financial aid typically sends us a reminder of what documents are still missing once you are opened up. And I'll be following up with you to say, hey, you still need this document. Do you need support? Are there any ways that I can help in ensuring that you can get those things into financial aid? Again, it is important, and we're going to stress that September date for you to let me know if you no longer are interested in being considered an EOF scholar and you do not want to go through this process. Because again, if you do not let us know when they open you up, you need to complete those documents still, right? Financial aid is still going to expect those documents to be submitted. So we want to make sure that if you feel like this is not for you and you do not want to move on with this process, you let us know. And then our last slide. So questions, I see some people put me questions in the chat. I also want to highlight one other program that's going to be happening next Thursday, September 23rd at 5 p.m. We will be holding an orientation on campus for students an EOF orientation. So this is going to be in the campus center, the lower level West ABC. I will be emailing this information out. Many of you have probably been emailed this already. We've had some students who applied literally just yesterday for EOF, so you may not have received this just yet, but you will be emailed out the information regarding the EOF orientation that Thursday in person. And we encourage you all to attend, especially if you know you want to move forward with this. It's an opportunity for you to meet your advisors, the advisors in EOF, to gain a little bit more information about what the workshops will look like this semester, and then for you to meet other EOF students. So keep that in mind, next Thursday, 5 p.m. on campus. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. I see that there are some questions in the chat, so I want to go ahead and kind of just pose those to the group and we can answer. So the one question is, when should we expect the letter? So this is, I think, in reference to the letter from the IRS. So depending on what information you need is going to be when those letters come in. So a form that most students have to obtain is tax transcripts, whether it's your own tax transcripts or transcripts from maybe your parents or whoever is the head of household. Those forms you can either obtain directly from the IRS website, and you can get that instantly. You'll be able to download it. If you aren't able to download it, then you will have to request for the IRS to send that in the mail. And as Lakeisha had mentioned, sometimes that takes up to 2 weeks or longer to come in the mail, which is why it's very important to go ahead and once you're open up for verification and you get that email from financial aid indicating what documents you need, to start early in trying to obtain them. The next question that we have from Henry is, does this apply for fall semester 2021? So I'm not fully sure what that is in reference to, but the EOF verification process is kind of having you for this semester. And you would have to complete that within this semester. So once you're opened up for verification, the deadline to kind of complete that is going to be in November. So I believe in about mid-November is when we're going to expect for you to have all that documentation in, so that we can make sure that if you are eligible, that you can be funded for the semester. Randy put into the chat as well, the letter on the notification that you have been open for verification will happen later in the week of the 28th. What is being held on the 23rd? Cassandra just asked, that's going to be our EOF orientation. And then is next week mandatory? So I say this often. At the university, there's not many things that are going to be mandatory. We can't force you to do anything. We can't force you to do to be in EOF, but we always are going to say if you want to remain compliant and you want to take advantage of this, it is to your benefit to be present for the pieces that you can be. So if you are off campus, if you're far away, let's say you're a remote student and you're online and you know you're not going to be able to physically come on campus for orientation next week, that's okay. Just let us know. Send an email when you get done. Just say, hey, I'm an off-campus student. I'm not going to be able to attend next week. Where do we send the text transcripts to? So once you get open up for financial verification, in those emails that you receive that from financial aid, there will be a link in that email that gives you access to your financial aid portal. And there is a portal where you're able to upload these financial documents. We really stress students to use that portal to get those documents in. So I know sometimes students struggle to use those portal, and if you are having issue uploading documents, reach out to me. We can Zoom. Sometimes it's the files are too big, you need to save them in different files. Sometimes students have issues kind of signing the documents that way, and I try to troubleshoot that. But the transcripts, any other documents that you might need to fill out and have a wet signature, what we want you to do is either take a picture or scan those documents and then upload them to that financial aid portal so that they can be received by financial aid advisors. Good evening. What is the portal called again? Lakeisha, does it have like an official name? It's kind of just a financial aid document. Like what might have an official name to it?
So I believe in the email, it's going to come through like Scarlet Hub document upload, and it's going to be like a link that'll take you right to that upload page. But it's part of that Scarlet Hub financial aid page.
So those are the questions that were in the chat. Are there any other questions either in the chat, or if anybody, feel free to unmute your microphone if you want to ask a question.
I just have a quick question in regards to coming to the orientation. I have a child, and my child care is limited. She's 11, so would I be able to bring her, or is that not allowed because of COVID and things like that?
So I will check. I know that they have a form if you were like a guest of the university, if you're not a student, for you to kind of fill out. And it's the questionnaires. Most places out there are like, hey, have you been in contact with anybody with COVID recently? Have you been experiencing symptoms, so on and so forth, so that you can get kind of a pass to be on campus. So I can go and get some more clarity on that to see if that is something that you can do to be able to bring your child on campus. I know for us, without COVID times, we have no problem with you bringing your child on campus or any family members, especially for some of the students, if you know you might need parents to be a part of this process, if it's their documents, if you want to bring them in. But I will make sure that I get some clarity on with children what that kind of clearance is in terms of the campus kind of pass that they're requiring individuals to fill out with her being on campus.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make sure I follow up an email with that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so if you do have any other questions, if things kind of pop on up, please feel free to connect with me. You can send me an email, you can send me a text message. I will put my phone number into the chat again. Just so you have that. We did record today's session, so I will make sure. I know some people joined a little bit later, just so you can go back and reference this session if you do have any questions. You're like, hey, I know this date was mentioned or this thing was mentioned here. I want to go back and reference it. You'll have this recording. I'll make sure that it's emailed out to you all. And to sum up, by next week, we should try and get the financial aid portal finished. No, Joseph. So we won't be opening up students for financial verification probably until we're thinking that first week in October, Lakeisha.
Yes, so you
goal.
have, you have to the 27th to let Brandon know if you do want to still be considered for the program. And then what'll happen is probably a day or so after, I'll get a list of all the students that are interested. And then it just takes me a couple days to get the notification sent out. You don't want to submit any documentation before you get that missing information notice. So once you get that notification, then you can start submitting the documentation.
So Judy put in the chat, will this funding be applied to this semester? So if you can get clear for this semester, and depending on the situation, I know there are kind of caveats to that, depending if you are eligible and you get cleared, this funding should be applied to this semester, but I always say it depends on the student and the situation. But ideally this will be funded for this semester. You want to make sure you get those documents in as soon as you can so we can make sure that we clear you. Any other questions? All right, thank you all. Please have a safe evening. And again, feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Expect an email from me with follow-ups, reminders about the upcoming deadlines, and a link to this recording, okay? Be safe. Have a great one.